Today is Thursday, September 23rd, 2021. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. More pressure been applied to President Joe Biden's administration dealing with the Haitian migrant crisis. You got his Haitian envoy resigns in protest, blasting the American policy. You have the Congressional Black Caucus demanding answers. We'll be joined by Congresswoman Frederica Wilson and also Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. You also have black activists right now gathering supplies in Dallas, traveling to Del Rio, Texas as well. You also have the Haitian government also saying, hey, slow down the deportations so they can also have time to catch up. Folks, we got all of these areas covered, and Press Secretary Jen Psaki taking tough questions from black journalists at the White House. We got it all broken down. We have it for you right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Also on today's show, Black and Missing. Mainstream media all of a sudden discovers missing black people. They're the damn problem because they've been focusing on missing white folks. We will talk with the family of one young man who has been missing for quite some time, and also some horrible news. Another brother, Jelani Day, his body found today in the Illinois River in that state. During closing arguments during the R. Kelly trial, R. Kelly's lawyer compares the singer to Martin Luther King Jr. What the hell is that about? Also, more of the life and legacy of Melvin Van Peebles. We'll hear from filmmaker Nelson George, also filmmaker Michael Schultz, who directed Car Wash, and a heartfelt video from his son, Mario Van Peebles. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Far too many weak answers coming from the Biden administration as it relates to the Haitian migrant crisis happening on the Texas border. They continue to deport folks. They also are having more challenge them on their policy when it came to Border Patrol using horse reins to whip those individuals. The cops involved placed on administrative leave, but also what is America's policy in the treatment of Haitians? Why do we see a continuation of Haitians being treated far differently than Afghan refugees or even Cubans? We got comprehensive coverage on today's show. Joining us right now is Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, out of Florida. Congresswoman, glad to have you on the show. I have been asking that question repeatedly. We know this goes back to the administration of President Jimmy Carter as to why America treats Haitians differently from Cubans and how they're being treated right now on the border. What answers have you gotten from Vice President Kamala Harris, from President Joe Biden, from others as well?
Well, it is very clear, and it has always been clear, that there's a difference between the way they treat all black immigrants versus white immigrants. So there's racism at the border. It's always been there. And as the Congressional Black Caucus moves forward, we're trying to address that. Right now, we are demanding that all deportations to Haiti cease. Stop right now. No one needs to be deported to Haiti. Haiti cannot receive any repatriated people at this time. Haiti is not in the condition to receive anyone. And I see them moving people now on the airplane, going back to Haiti. Many of them do not even know that they're going to go back to Haiti. They have not just left Haiti. They have just left Chile. They've left other Central American countries, and some of them just speak Spanish. So this is 10 and 15 years ago, and they're repatriating these people to Haiti, and it must stop now. I am pissed. That's my new word. Pissed beyond my reservation. I am stunned that we are experiencing this under a Democratic president. This makes no sense.
Now, you see the continuation of the policies of Donald Trump when it comes to Title 42, the usage of that. President Biden, then, when he was running, said he was going to be treating Haitians more humanely. What the hell happened?
Well, it is my understanding that this surge came as a surprise. They were not prepared for the surge. They were not ready for them as far as shelter, as far as food, as far as clean water, sanitation. They just came. And what is going on? There is a cottage industry of criminals who have created this, I guess you would say, misinformation across the Western Hemisphere saying, you see, the Afghans were let in. They have opened the border. Just come, pay us. We will bring you. And so these people, the money that they have saved, and they were sending it back to Haiti, they're using that money to travel with these people to the border. So they're being hoodwinked to think that the border is open. However, now that they are there, this has turned into a humanitarian crisis for the United States. The optics around the world is not good for the White House. So they need to solve this problem today. And it begins with stabilizing Haiti. You cannot deport anyone back to Haiti or anyone to Haiti without stabilizing Haiti. And they have not done that. So they need to give these Haitian nationals an asylum hearing, a date, carry them through the process. And if some of them are wearing ankle bracelets, it is my understanding. Some we have welcomed here in Miami, but it's still not enough. So we're asking the faith-based community to reach out, to offer them the ability to be their sponsors, because I believe those who have sponsors, they're allowing them to be released in the United States and giving them a court date. They have separated the children and put them on the Health and Human Services, because unaccompanied children have other guidelines that they're under. Who they are repatriating are Black men who we need here in America. There are enough jobs, there are enough places who will welcome them, and they need to stop repatriating them. Some of these people have not been in Haiti for 15 years. They left to go and work in Chile and Brazil for the World Cup, and they have not returned. So when those jobs dried up, there was racism in Chile, racism in Brazil. So they didn't have any jobs. And when they began to get this information that they could come to the United States, the border was open, they started on this trek. And it's 4,000 miles from Chile to the border where they are. So this is a crisis. It's a humanitarian crisis, and it has to be solved today.
One of the things that we have not heard, I'm going to play a little bit later, Yamisha Alcindor of PBS was asking Jen Psaki, why haven't we heard President Biden on this? This is one of those moments where, this has been going on for quite some time. We've been reporting on it every single day. We've asked the administration every single day, send someone onto this show to explain what's going on. They have not done so thus far. And so is it a time for the president, for President Biden, not Press Secretary Jen Psaki, not Vice President Kamala Harris, for President Biden to come out and speak to the nation, speak publicly on this?
When the president of Haiti was murdered, I requested that the president have a fireside chat with the people of Haiti. That was long before this. So now that coupled with that, the earthquake, the hurricane, and this deportation debacle, definitely, it is time. It's long overdue.
All right, Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us. And hopefully we'll have a resolution to this issue soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and do this, and be sure to send me a text so I can have your, my number ain't changed, so I need to get your new number, so just send me a text.
Okay.
All right, love the hat. All right, take care. Folks, today, as I said, Yamisha Alcindor was questioning Jen Psaki, the press secretary. It got a little heated. Here's this exchange today, the White House briefing room.
Go ahead, Yamisha.
Thanks, Jeff. A couple of questions on Haiti. The first is the president has often used his bully pulpit during the most important times in his administration. Why is he not using that bully pulpit to speak out forcefully himself on the treatment of Haitians?
I would say, Yamish, certainly I've represented to you all his point of view. His point of view is also reflected in the actions that have been taken through the administration, including the investigation, including the change in policy. The Secretary of Homeland Security oversees these efforts and has been quite outspoken and quite visible on what steps we should take moving forward. And he certainly may still speak to it. Obviously, there's a lot of events happening here, including the UN General Assembly, COVID, and others, and I wouldn't rule that out.
And just to say, respectfully, I just have a couple more questions. Everyone else got questions in. Respectfully, I understand that you are the spokesperson for the president. These are images that are traumatizing Haitian Americans that he promised to treat respectfully and with humanity. Why isn't the president telling people himself these images that people say look like slavery are wrong? Me as president, I as president, condemn them. How is he not doing that? Why is he not doing that? What are people supposed to take away from the fact that he's not at the bully pulpit himself talking about these images?
Yamish, I think people should take away that his actions make clear how horrible and horrific he thinks these images are, including an investigation, including a change of policy, including conveying clearly that this is not acceptable and he's not going to stand for this in the Biden-Harris administration. Our actions make that absolutely crystal clear, as have our engagements with a range of voices, a range of concerned advocates, members of Congress, and others who we want to communicate with, not just about our horror, but also about what our immigration policy is moving forward.
Also said in his letter, he called the U.S. policy inhumane, deeply flawed. Does the president believe anything in this letter that Daniel Foote is saying rings true, has some sort of point that he believes is true?
Which aspect?
He called the policy toward Haiti inhumane. He said that
He wasn't specific in his letter. What I noted earlier before, let me finish, Yamiche. What I noted earlier before is that we have taken very specific actions as it relates to the horrific photos that we're not going to stand for in this administration. I don't know if he was referring to that or something else. That's why I raised the point. His purview, let me finish, Yamiche. His purview was not about migration. He didn't raise his concerns about migration privately. We respect his point of view, respect his ability to bring forward concerns, to raise ideas, to raise proposals. That's certainly something the president welcomes from everybody on his team and something that he had the opportunity to do in a range of meetings. We also have to make decisions here based on what we feel are going to help promote democracy in Haiti, including Haitian-led reforms, Haitian-led steps on the ground to make changes in the country.
A number of people who say that he did raise concerns over the deportation of Haitians and the treatment of Haitians. Are you saying then that Daniel Floyd is not telling the truth in this letter?
I would point you to the State Department, who have conveyed clearly in their statement what I just said.
I promise.
Yep.
The last question is, Daniel Floyd, the former special envoy to Haiti, he's raising this idea that the U.S. should be listening to Haitian civil society, not backing the current prime minister who was not elected by the people. What's the president's response to that? Because those civil society members have been telling me and other reporters for months, even before the assassination of the president, that President Biden was not listening to the people of Haiti about how to move forward with their government.
We support a Haitian-led process charting the country's course through the current political situation. We don't back any one political group, and we continue to encourage all political stakeholders to engage in dialogue and find solutions together. And that has been our objective through all of our policy process making throughout the course of this, in addition to providing a range of assistance, training to people on the ground. Go ahead.
Now, folks, again, let's talk about that Haitian envoy. In his resignation letter to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, Daniel Foote says the inhumane and counterproductive decision to deport thousands of Haitian refugees have led to his immediate resignation. This is the letter here that he lays out. First of all, I don't want to go to that first, folks. I'm going to go this here. I'd rather have the whole letter. I want to do this here. Let me pull up because I want to show the lead paragraph, which is the most important, because he gets right to the issue quite quickly in this here. And this is what he says. Come to my computer, please. This is what he says. Our policy approach to Haiti remains deeply flawed, and my recommendations have been ignored and dismissed when not edited to project a narrative different from my own. The people of Haiti, mired in poverty, hostage to the terror, kidnappings, robberies, and massacres of armed gangs, and suffering under a corrupt government with gang alliances, simply cannot support the forced infusion of thousands of returned migrants lacking food, shelter, and money without additional avoidable human tragedy. The collapsed state is unable to provide security or basic services, and more refugees will fuel further desperation and crime. Surging migration to our borders will only grow as we add to Haiti's unacceptable misery. Haitians need immediate assistance to restore the government's ability to neutralize the gangs and restore order through the national police. They need a true agreement across society and political actors with international support to chart a timely path to the democratic selection of their next president and parliament. They need humanitarian assistance, money to deliver COVID vaccines, and so many other things. But what our Haitian friends really want and need is the opportunity to chart their own course without international puppeteering and favored candidates, but with genuine support for that course. I do not believe that Haiti can enjoy stability until her citizens have the dignity of truly choosing their own leaders fairly and acceptably. Last week, the U.S. and other embassies in Port-au-Prince issued another public statement of support for the unelected de facto Prime Minister, Dr. Ariel Henry. And I'm going to pull up this second piece right here. He said, as interim leader of Haiti, and have continued to tout his, quote, political agreement over another broader earlier accord shepherded by civil society. The hubris that makes us believe that we should pick the winner again is impressive. This cycle of international political interventions in Haiti has consistently produced catastrophic results. More negative impacts to Haiti will have calamitous consequences, not only in Haiti, but in the U.S. and our neighbors in the hemisphere. Signed, Daniel Foote, and he will, of course, he sent it to the Undersecretary for Political Affairs, the Assistant Secretary for Western Hemisphere Affairs, the Acting Director General, Congressman Gregory Meeks, Chair of the U.S. House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee, and Congressman Andy Levin, House of Representatives. I've seen a lot of resignation letters, Dr. Greg Carr, but very few have been that blunt in resigning in protest from the State Department.
Well, it's always good to be with you and with everyone on Thursdays rolling weekly, but you know, this is a particularly heavy week. And another reason why Black Star Network is so important. This story is going to be covered a lot of places, but it won't be covered anywhere like this. Daniel Foote basically is a traitor. He's a traitor to the American project in this moment. They threw him under the bus. This is a career diplomat. He joined the Department of State in 1998. He has been stationed in Zambia. He has worked in Central America. He has done Bolivia, other places, Latin America. And he's only been in Haiti as a special envoy since the end of July when Moise was killed, the prime minister. But they installed Ariel Henry. You see, the United States government installed Ariel Henry. You see, the Biden administration installed Ariel Henry to do exactly what he is doing. And the response from Ned Price, who's a spokesperson from the State Department, to Mr. Foote's allegation that his recommendations have been cast aside, they said, no, we didn't cast them aside. We considered them and considered that they were, quote, this is the Biden administration, quote, harmful to our commitment to the promotion of democracy in Haiti, and were rejected his recommendations during the policy process. They're in bed with, they stood him up with the Organization of American States. They're in bed with this cat. They're not just ignoring civil society. They don't want the Haitian people in charge of Haiti. Joe Biden, you mummy. And so as they have mounted up, as they've mounted now, as many as 7 flights now, they've ramped them up. These flights have about 145 people apiece. And we heard Congresswoman Wilson talk about this. Some of the people have been in Latin America for over a decade. They left after the earthquake in Haiti in 2010. They went to work in the World Cup in Brazil in 2014. The racist Brazilian government, which ended up with Bolsonaro there now, began to expel them. That's why they ended up in Chile. And as she said, they have been assaulted. There have been rapes. There's been robbery and thieves and people lying and saying if you trade for this money to bring them to the Texas border. And what is the Biden administration doing under this Title 42 piece that the Trump administration started? Joe Biden, they've been using the excuse that we're deporting people because of COVID, and they appealed a federal ruling that said you can't use that excuse. The Biden administration just appealed that. They are deporting people, and they're going to try to deport as many of them as they can, or turn them back to Mexico, release some into the United States. But Foote, apparently, Roland, finally, brother, he's had enough. This is a career civil servant, a member of the senior diplomatic corps, who looks as if he has had enough. And when Jen Psaki stood there and lied to the face of Yamisi Alcindor, whose parents came here from Haiti, who grew up in Miami, who talks about that, I'm sure it was very personal for that sister today in that room, they revealed that this no good settler state don't give a damn about Black people, and that includes Joe Biden.
Rishi Kohler, Black Women Views. What's really interesting here when we talk about what's going on here is, yes, there is an expectation that a President Joe Biden was going to treat folks differently than Donald Trump did. Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden has got some answering to do to Black people.
Absolutely. And I think he is, really passing the buck on this and kind of going in hiding instead of, using his bully pulpit, as Yamisha Sindora pointed out, to make a strong, forceful statement about this. I mean, he has been missing in action in terms of really speaking out forcefully about how inhumane and unacceptable this treatment is that we saw towards these Haitian migrants. And, I think part of the problem is that, he hasn't figured out yet what his overarching policy is going to be on immigration. He kind of got a get out of jail free card by passing the buck and allowing this narrative that Vice President Kamala Harris is over the borders and over immigration, even though she had a very narrow assignment for diplomacy and with the Northern Triangle nations and not over the border. But he let her take all the daggers since the announcement was made in March on immigration. Well, now the buck needs to stop with the president, the person who actually is over this policy. His administration, his secretaries are the ones that are appealing this ruling in Title 42. And so it's time for him to speak out. But I think the problem is that as a nation, we also haven't decided what we want to be when it comes to immigration. We saw Donald Trump, the last president, who was talking about build a wall, and he was so anti-immigrant, so anti-refugee, and yet he improved his performance with Latinos in 2020. And even in 2018, the Republicans made gains. And so we don't have a mandate within the party. We don't have a mandate within the country on how we want to treat immigrants, just the same way we are not treating Black citizens as first class citizens. Look at what's happening with voting suppression and rights all around the country. And so this is just another indication of the fact that we as a country have not grappled with who we want to be. And as a result, we continue to be who we have always been, which is inhumane, treating Black people, whether they're immigrants, whether they're Black citizens as second class citizens, and inflicting more pain and horror. And there's absolutely no reason to be, quote unquote, repatriating Haitian migrants and refugees back to a homeland. It's their original homeland, but places they have not been for over a decade. So there are so many flaws in this, but I also have to point out, I know people don't want to hear about logistics and facts, but there is a logistical aspect here that needs to be addressed as well. Maybe this is something that Congress can work on. The fact of the matter is there are over 300,000 open asylum cases. These are people that have already passed the first threshold that are working their way through the system. They only approve about 30,000 a year. At the rate of approval, it's going to take 4 years to get through all of the open asylum cases. You have over 1 million quote unquote open removal cases where they've determined that these folks need to be deported. And there's a huge backlog with that. So we have an immigration system that is completely broken. Even if you don't even take into account the racism and the disparities with how different groups are treated, there's still a very, very broken immigration system that has to be fixed and has to be addressed so that people who do come here can be processed in an orderly fashion instead of there being chaos and instead of them saying, well, look at the optics of a bunch of 10,000 people under a bridge. We need to solve those optics instead of solving the humanitarian crisis that we're dealing with. So this is a very layered issue. I don't have the expertise to talk about U.S., Haiti, government interfering and all that nature and all that stuff. But I will say that this is a very layered thing, and it's an emotionally charged and traumatic thing that we're looking at. But there are so many issues that need to be addressed that aren't even a part of the conversation yet.
Before I go to you, would you and my Congresswoman Yvette Clarke of New York. Congresswoman Clarke, glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You represent a number of Haitians in your district, a number of Haitian Americans. What are they saying to you? What are you hearing from them regarding this crisis on the Texas border?
Roland, they are distraught, but they are not dissuaded. They are energized to do whatever they must do, what we must do to make sure that, one, there's accountability with the Department of Homeland Security and Border Patrol, but two, most importantly, that the Haitian migrants are given the same due process that all other migrants seeking refugee status, asylum in the United States are afforded. We are very focused. Of course, it is a traumatic thing to watch people of African descent, Black people, Haitian people treated in the way that we have seen. We know that this migration is a culmination of a number of very complex situations, and it is up to us as Americans to stand up for the creed that we are accepting of all people in our nation, that asylum is something that has been at the heart of who we are as a people. So my constituency, while disappointed, while very just angry and distraught over what has transpired, are energized to make sure that there is justice at the end of the day.
This is, of course, Democratic administration. Bottom line is, if this was Donald Trump, folks would be raising holy hell all up and down. As far as we're concerned, there's no difference. How these black migrants are being treated is wrong, and President Joe Biden needs to say something. He needs to be seen speaking. We've heard from Vice President Kamala Harris. We've heard from Press Secretary Jen Psaki. We've heard from CBC members, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, the chair, and so many others. When is he going to say something that speaks to this issue? Because he pledged to treat migrants humanely when he was running for president. Well, now he's in the office.
Well, it's my hope that he's hearing the outcry of the people. Certainly, we went to the White House to make it plain to them, we being members of the Congressional Black Caucus, me being the head of the Immigration Task Force, co-chair of the Caribbean Caucus and co-chair of the Haiti Caucus in the House of Representatives. I've made it unequivocally clear that what we have experienced as people of African descent was amplified in terms of the marginalization and brutality against Black bodies that we witnessed with this these Border Patrol agents. We have asked that these Border Patrol agents be held accountable, and as far as I'm concerned, that means dismissed, and that there are a whole host of other actions that need to be taken by this administration. So we recognize that this was a digression that can be overcome. Right now, we've asked for the halt of any more repatriation of Haitian nationals back to Haiti. And again, that there be due process for those who are seeking refuge and asylum in the United States of America. I've seen the administration begin to move in that direction. I'm holding them accountable each and every day. As you know, we want accountability, we want transparency, and most of all, we want our people to be treated with human dignity.
Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Roland, and thank you for being on top of this issue, as I know you would have been. But this is something we cannot abide with as Americans, as African Americans, as Black Americans, and in my case, as a Caribbean American. This strikes at the heart of who we are as a nation, and this will not be the final word. There's much more that needs to be done, not only for these migrants, but for the island nation of Haiti. And I intend to be on the front lines and leading that charge. So thank you once again, and I appreciate the attention you're giving to this issue, Roland. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. All right, Faraji Muhammad, your thoughts on all of this. It is certainly increasing. It's a problem. We're seeing this all across. We're seeing, of course, activists work to pull together resources. They're doing that in Dallas as we speak. We're going to try to get Tamika Mallory, Reverend Freddie Haynes on the line as well. They're going to be driving supplies and resources down to Del Rio. I saw Pastor Jamal Bryant and others are going to be heading down there as well. Biden administration has got a problem, and I don't know who the hell is advising them, but they better fix it real quick.
Oh, no doubt, Brother Roland. And this is why it's important for us to even have this conversation, because one of the big questions I was going to, would ask any Black political leader, whether it was Representative Wilson or Congresswoman Clarke, is what should the average Black American do right now? What should be done? Because I see Jay Morrison, other folks are talking about hitting the Del Rio. What about those of us at home? How do we help? How do we support? How do we get involved? How do we offer our, our services or whatever that can be done? I think that's a big question for us to create the sense of camaraderie, brotherhood, and sisterhood among the people. But the other thing I think is very interesting too, Brother Roland, is the fact that AP News reported this, that the criteria for deciding who is flown to Haiti and who is released in the U.S. are a mystery. According to the AP, they said 2 officials said single adults were a priority. And they said that if previous handling of asylum seekers is any guide, the administration is more likely to release those deemed vulnerable, including pregnant women, families with young children, and those with medical issues, and exempt unaccompanied children from expulsion flights on humanitarian grounds. Now, that's based on the previous policy. But that's not determining, that doesn't speak to where we are at the present moment. And I love what Reese had said in terms of where we are in this country on immigration. We know that there is a deep, deep level of racism when it comes to immigration in this country that we afford to white immigrants and migrants versus black immigrants and migrants. And I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem. But we can't talk about that longstanding issue right now because we got thousands of people living under a bridge in Texas. So we have to ask the questions, you know, why isn't there a criteria? What should the criteria be at this point? Press the president, as folks have been saying, continue to get people involved. But I really would love to see our brothers and sisters down in Texas, see what kind of support can we give them. And I'm talking about those who are in Houston, those who are in other parts, your hometown, Roland. I mean, what can we do as a people on this side of the conversation? How can we be supportive in this effort?
Well, first of all, those things are happening. I mean, literally, as I'm sitting here, as we're talking to folks and going through this, give me 1 second. I'm literally texting Linda Sarsour, Reverend Freddie Haynes, and Tamika Mallory with, of course, Until Freedom. What they are doing. They're having me supplies. First of all, pulling together supplies and resources. And one of the things that Linda just said is we now have an 18-axle truck that we don't even know what to do with, plus the first truck we had. She said people were just waiting for folks to tell them how to help. So that's happening. But the issue that, of course, that you're going to have is, if people all of a sudden just start sending stuff, you got to have a place to send it to.
Right.
Well, you can't.
And so the problem here is folks are going down the Del Rio, but here's the first question. Are those goods, supplies are going to be able to get to the people? What do you do with it? And so you go down, what do you do? And so it's the same thing when you get the earthquake. Our whole deal was we will tell you where to send stuff, but it's got to go to the right place. Greg, go ahead.
No. I'm just rolling to the point, and I am equipped to have this conversation about U.S. interference in the policy of Haiti and the government. And all these things are true at the same time. There isn't a broken immigration system in this country, particularly since 1965, the Immigration and Naturalization Act. What there is a determined attempt to curate who gets to come in this country and who doesn't. Mm-hmm. It's not broken. It's not broken at all. In fact, it is a spigot that has always been controlled as far back as the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act to keep this country white. Now, in terms of the U.S. policy toward Haiti, the Biden administration is following in the footsteps, as you have said, Roland, of every administration going back to the damn Haitian Revolution when it comes to regulating how Haiti fits in the geopolitics of this hemisphere. So that the corporate interests in Haiti, I'm talking about the people who make the draws and the baseballs in both the Haiti and Dominican Republic, that is what is informing the fact that after the assassination of Moise, when this guy went down there as Biden's emissary, the special envoy, in July, to now, they took out the person that the remnants of the Haitian government decided you be the leader until we get. The Biden administration is like, no. They vetted Dr. Henry, along with the Organization of American States. None of this is hidden. It takes maybe a few keystrokes and a couple of conversations to see. And so as people in the United States want to send aid, the folk who are down there under the bridge at Del Rio, access has been blocked by the local police and the federal government. It's important to understand. Also, that number is shrinking decidedly. Why? Because they are flying people back. At last count I have,
Right,
and you may have
right,
more recently,
right.
there are less than 4,000 people down there now. There are 3.2 thousand people in custody. There are over 1,400 who have been returned, whether they're sent back to Mexico or even, depending on their papers, back to the sources of where they came from. And the flights, as many as now, 7 a week, this uptick by the Biden administration, are landing at Toussaint Louverture. People are getting off the plane, and in one case, tried to fight the ICE people to get back on the plane, come back to the United States because they have nothing in Haiti. Now, the only other thing I'll say is that this is not unrelated. I know people get tired of me hearing me saying, but it's okay. Do a little research. There is no we in this country. There's no moral core in this country. There's no we're better than this. The sitting vice president of the United States made a statement. This is after the damn Democratic Party gave the right wing talking points by showing her at the Howard Hampton football game Saturday, combining it with these Haitians under the bridge, and basically revealing the fact that the Biden administration set her up in the first place by, as you say, Reese, saddling her with this idea that you would control the border, which was never supposed to include all this. But at the end of the day, even the vice president has said something. Right now, we are all Haitians. One of the most encouraging things I've seen in this, and that I think we've seen in this, is that we have set aside all our little petty differences about where the black people come from. We continental Africans. Yeah. You heard Yvette Clark. You heard Frederica Wilson. We are all Haitians. And that cracker on that horse with that whip, bring it, baby, because your little country's falling apart. You're going to whip the right one in a minute. Y'all real close now. You're taking another step closer to the dissolution of this settler project. There's nothing broken in this country. There's nothing broken in this country. This is an anti-black project. And we're seeing another example of it today in Texas.
Well, when you talk about how this view of whiteness, and I've told y'all about this white supremacist Charlie Kirk, big-time Trump person. Listen to what he said about what should be happening with the border dealing with Haitians. Listen.
Of course, that's a lie. We know that's not true. You have pictures of people that have pieces of paper that says, please help us. I do not speak English. What bus do I need to take? Thanks for your help. As they get released into the interior of the United States. Bill Malhusian is saying they are releasing entire family units into the United States. Now, some people are saying I'm being too harsh on Texas. Well, Texas, whether they like it or not, are front and center, smack dab in the middle of the great question of our time, which is, who runs the country? What do you do when you start to have a apathetic tyrant, now apathetic when it comes to immigration law, but very engaged when it comes towards forcing vaccinations? What do you do? I know so many amazing patriots in the great state of Texas, and I love Texas, that have been waiting and are willing for this moment. Deputize a citizen force. Put them on the border. Give them handcuffs. Get it done. Sure, that's dramatic. You know what's dramatic? The invasion of the country. We're going to talk more about that. We're going to talk about how the other side has openly admitted that this is about bringing in voters that they want and they like, and honestly diminishing and decreasing white demographics in America. We're going to say that part out loud because so many people in the corporate media are afraid to talk about it. Charlie Kirk here. Check out the Charlie Kirk Show podcast. Be right back.
No, Charlie, we aren't afraid to talk about what you white nationalists have been saying and want to do because we've been calling that out. First of all, let's just be clear. You can't blame what's happening with decreasing white folks on migrants. Y'all the ones who stopped screwing. You can't blame. I mean, Charlie, I know you dumb. I mean, I know Candace Owens makes you look like a Rhodes Scholar. But let me just show you a couple of things here, Charlie, that probably you had know nothing about because aren't you also like a college dropout, just like Candace? Let's see here. We're going to type in here. Go to my computer, please. Declining white birth rates in America. What comes up? Right here. White deaths exceed births in a majority of U.S. states. Let me go ahead and increase this here. In 2016, more non-Hispanic whites died than were born in 26 states, more than at any time in U.S. history. See, Charlie, y'all the ones who not screwing. And that's really what the pushback, Reese, Faraji, and Greg, is all about. They are, oh my God, we're losing this. The demographic numbers, that's the whole deal. The opioid crisis made it worse. White life expectancy dropped. COVID's making it worse, dropping. That's why every time one of these white anti-vaxxers, white 707 conservative radio talk show hosts, bye, they gone. They dead.
Right.
That's what's going on here. And so what they're doing is taking it out on people of color. And the problem is that President Joe Biden and too many Democrats are so scared of Republicans. Oh my God, they're criticizing us over immigration. Oh, then you have this white nationalist, Tucker Carlson, on Fox News, leading the charge every single night, saying stuff like this.
An unrelenting stream of immigration. But why? Well, Joe Biden just said it, to change the racial mix of the country. That's the reason, to reduce the political power of people whose ancestors lived here and dramatically increase the proportion of Americans newly arrived from the third world. And then Biden went further. He said that non-white DNA is the, quote, source of our strength. Imagine saying that. This is the language of eugenics. It's horrifying. But there's a reason Biden said it. In political terms, this policy is called the Great Replacement, the replacement of legacy Americans with more obedient people from faraway countries. They brag about it all the time, but if you dare to say it's happening, they will scream at you with maximum hysteria. And here you have Joe Biden confirming his motive on tape with a smile on his face.
Legacy Americans. Go ahead, Faraji.
What is he talking about?
I'm blown away. I'm blown away by this whole thing. But, I think that, this whole idea that this is a mass, as Tucker Carlson saying, mass movement to decline the white population, this is straight out of something, this is white paranoia, this is white fear, because America is coming to a reckoning, and this whole country, this whole world is coming to a reckoning that white supremacy is dying, and you're seeing people rise up.
No. That's a mistake we make. White supremacy is not. No. White supremacy is not dying. More whites are dying. That's a difference.
No. And here's why I say white supremacy is dying. The belief in white supremacy is dying. That is, people are starting to rebel against that idea of this. Black people, brown people across this country, across this world.
Here's the no. See, no. Gotta correct you, my brother. Here's why.
Go ahead,
Here's why. By 2043, okay, America will be a nation majority people of color. But that's 53% Black, Latino, Asian, Native American, 47% white. The problem is you have an increasing number of Latinos who are identifying as white.
They are identifying as white right now.
No, hold up.
No. You also have Brother Roland, you also have an emerging number of Latinos and Hispanics who are pushing for not an identification with white, but they want to be placed in a different category, in their own independent category.
I'm telling you, here's the deal. We're seeing it play out in Texas right now. In the last election, you had some Texas counties that were Hispanic counties saw a 200 to 300% increase for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. Well,
Sure.
follow me here. Follow me here. What I'm saying is this here. Reese raised the point earlier. How in the hell you saw an increase in Latino voting for Trump over Biden? It's because we got to deal with it. You have an increasing number of Latinos / Hispanics, depending upon what part of the country you're in, who identify as white values, white view of America, and don't feel for us. And so when we talk about black and brown coalition, we got to understand. And of course, I have seen this with my own eyes and my experience in Texas. There's a difference between somebody who is from Mexico, there's somebody from Peru, there's somebody from Venezuela, somebody from Nicaragua, somebody from Colombia. And so the values aren't the same. So you got some folks who come over here and like, nah, I'm white. But for that contract and for college, I'm brown, but I'm white. So there's a dynamic at play here that we got to own up to.
And I agree with you. And I'm just simply saying that even with that dynamic at play, Brother Roland, the fact is people are tired of white people exerting their force, white people saying that they're better. That whole idea that white people should be in the leadership role, white people should be empowered. People are pushing back on that. We're seeing that literally every single day in this country. So what that other radio hosts and Tucker Carlson are afraid of is they're seeing their world going down and it's crumbling because the belief system that keeps this world up is flawed and is now being seen as a way to keep people slaves rather than masters of their own fate.
Greg, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think a number of these things work in tandem. The real villain of this piece is the nation state. Anytime you begin to parcel out rights and resources based on where you came out of your mother's womb, in other words, the concept of citizenship, you then enter people in a version of the Hunger Games. So we'll have a majority non-white country, but white people will then become the largest minority group in the country. And what holds whiteness together is anti-blackness. The hope for this country, and I don't have very much hope for it, and that's okay because I have hope for humanity. We have to understand nation state is a recent phenomenon in world history. But the hope for this country would be to ultimately abandon race logics. Charlie Kirk, who I would love to meet at the border, if he had the manhood to screw his little courage up and grab a whip and join him, I would love to join him down there and have a nice little dialogue. It would probably last about maybe the seconds it would take for me to erase all his bridge work with my fist. But we know he's not going anywhere near the border, so that would never happen. Charlie Cook and Kirk and the youngish-looking Tucker Carlson know very well that what they're doing is rallying the only thing that brings whiteness together, which is anti-blackness. And they're doing it exactly as you said. This, to quote Francis Cress Welsing and others, the public enemy, the fear of a black planet. Now, at the same time, there is nothing, as you said, Roland, there's nothing binding those who speak Spanish together. So, as you said, that caravan that left Latin America and came through Central America over those thousands of miles Representative Wilson talked about included Venezuelans, included some Cubans, included folk from other countries in Latin America, in addition to Haiti, included Dominicans. Dominican Republic and Haiti absurdly on the same island, but they were divided by a white nationalist project, this international, notion of whiteness. But the reason I'm bringing it all together is once you reach the United States, you acquire, if you can get it, a version of enhanced humanity that we call citizenship. This is the problem. It's not just a U.S. problem, it's a global problem. Once you become or have access to American citizenship, you will do anything to preserve it, maintain it, and extend it because it comes at the expense of other people in the hemisphere and in the world who have citizenship in these other imaginary places we call nation states. So you will have Cubans, white Cubans for sure, but increasingly non-white Cubans who will say, if my citizenship will be preserved by voting this way, I will. It isn't just values, although a lot of people who speak Spanish are Catholic. If you are in Texas, as you've just told us, you don't even have to be a white Hispanic, so to speak. You could be a Hispanic who thinks it will benefit me if I can get to point the finger at somebody else and thereby get them to stop looking at me. This is the zero-sum game of race. And so what we're seeing now, is a tipping point. We're in a country that never had a we. It isn't a nation. There are many different people in the borders of this nation state negotiating for themselves and the groups they come from to avoid last place, to use the work of the anthropologist Randy Mattori. But this moment, when you see this white boy on this horse, and Maxine Waters evokes enslavement, and Yamiche Alcindor goes after Jen Psaki, and she should have went after her with more barrels than she did. When Kamala Harris, who we can debate policy decisions, comes out and speaks as the sitting vice president, and the president of the United States is silent because he is still chasing them 3 imaginary white voters who are not going to return the Congress to the United States to the Democrats in 2022, and he's going to lose the election in 2024 because the white party is unified around anti-us, and we are not unified because there's no logic in this country that unifies the non-whites because we're all too busy trying to avoid last place. This thing is headed for a fracture.
And the thing here, Reese, when it comes down to politics, and I asked, you're going to hear in a second when I talk with Congresswoman Karen Bass, Democratic Party, you think you're going to hold on to the House and the Senate in 2022 without black people?
Come on.
Oh.
Come on.
I don't know, Ron Klain, Chief of Staff, you might want to wake up. If I'm Susan Rice and Cedric Richmond, I'm walking to that Oval Office saying, say, bro, do you understand what you're doing?
Yeah.
No George Floyd Justice Act, no For the People Act, no John Lewis Act, this Haitian issue here. Oh, you asking for an ass whooping. Reese, go ahead before I go to break.
Yeah, I do not look forward to 2022 and having to make the argument again, please vote like your life depend on it, blah, 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 when we're back in the same situation of not having results to show for it and only being able to show that it would have been worse had we picked the other guy. So there has to be some sort of come to Jesus moment. There has to be a reckoning. The Democratic Party has to figure out its identity and stick with it on immigration. And that identity cannot be appealing to white nationalism. To the point about white supremacy, there are plenty of people who are foot soldiers of white supremacy that are not white. Tim Scott is the one who tanked the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act along with Manchin. We have the new Florida Surgeon General is a black man who just got rid of mask mandates and even quarantine mandates in schools. And so there are plenty of black people that we can identify that are foot soldiers of white supremacy. To Dr. Carr's earlier point about the we with black people on this Haiti thing, I think that the images are so jarring and they're so transferable from something that's specific to Haitian migrants experiencing and something that enslaved peoples in the United States and black people in the United States have experienced, that there is a shared trauma there. But I do have to point out that one of the most divisive and effective tactics that's been used to divide black people and degrade our political power is, I won't even name the name of the organizations, but y'all can fill in the blank. But they have used xenophobic descendants of slaves as opposed to immigrants. They've even been against
and now
people.
all of a sudden they trying to sit here and cape for Haitian migrants. I'm like, sit y'all ass down.
But the reason for that is because it's an issue that is politically charged and can alienate black voters from the Democratic Party. So there are a lot of issues at play. We have xenophobia within the black community. I don't think there's an all good big kumbaya situation that's coming together just because of these images, but the images are universally abhorrent to anybody who has a conscience and a soul and understands that black peoples from across the diaspora have humanity. But we cannot ignore that we are still very much fractured. And even though we might come together to express our outrage towards the administration, that doesn't mean that we all have the same goals, because there are some people that actually do identify with, it's not Tucker Carlson and Kirk called it the white replacement theory, but there is a notion that they're taking our jobs and we have to take care of our own people, and y'all are talking about letting them through. So there are a lot of things that we have to talk about. We can't just put a rosy picture on it like we're all in this together and we're all united. We have to deal with those issues within our community as well, so that we can really harness our political power so that everybody in our community benefits.
Folks, we got a lot more on today's show. I got to go to a break. Coming up, we're going to hear from Congresswoman Karen Bass. No George Floyd Justice Act. Where you at, Senator Tim Scott? I thought you were going to bring at least 10 Republicans with you. Same 10 Senator Joe Manchin are going to bring, huh? Yeah, I thought so. Also, we're going to talk about black and missing. All of a sudden, white media now trying to do stories on why there's no coverage on black and missing, because y'all punk asses the one doing it. Because you basically got white bosses. Also, DOJ indicts a white Louisiana state trooper for beating a black man, a suspect. And we'll also talk to Omar Dorsey of Queen Sugar, and more tributes for the great Melvin Van Peebles. You'll hear from author, documentarian Nelson George, as well as great director Michael Schultz, and an emotional video that Mario Van Peebles put out last night about his father. Folks, you're watching the Black Star Network. Be sure to download the app. If you don't have it, download it on all platforms, Apple, Android, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku TV, Fire Stick, Xbox, Smart TV. Support Roland Martin Unfiltered by joining our Bring the Funk fan club, where your dollars make it possible for us to do what we do. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo is RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. I'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered, the Black Star Network, in a moment.
I believe that people our age have lost the ability to focus the discipline on the art of organizing.
The challenges, there's so many of them and they're complex, and we need to be moving to address them. But I'm able to say, watch out, Tiffany, I know this road.
That is so freaking dope.
Time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black Media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own, a black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about the platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be black-owned media and be here. You dig?
Hi, I'm LD.
Peace world. On the selection of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The Department of Justice have indicted a former Louisiana state trooper for excessive use of force against a black man. Brown charged with a single count of deprivation of rights under color of law. The indictment alleges that on May 30, 2019, Brown assaulted a gentleman by repeatedly striking him with a flashlight. If faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison, 3 years at least, up to $250,000. Now, folks, these are the sort of things that Congress, Georgia Police Reform Act. Remember, President Biden, he wanted to set that into law by the anniversary of the death of George Floyd, the one-year anniversary. That was in May. It passed. Democrats and Republicans have been negotiating. Senators Senator Tim Scott have been going back and forth, had lots of conversations, lots of negotiations going on between the two. Well, guess what? Nothing has happened. Senator, there's no deal. Senator Tim Scott said he is disappointed for the lack of willingness to compromise. Listen to this.
Negotiations come to an end.
I am disappointed about it. I've spent several years working on it, and frankly, the amount of misinformation is remarkable from the other side of the aisle. It is disappointing without much of a question.
Senator Warren said this morning that talks aren't over on their end, but I know you said that they were the ones that were here.
Yeah, I mean, the concern, of course, is that what they'll try to do is find some executive order and backsliding in reconciliation and a very partisan, and that's unfortunate. And likely, they both in their statements made it very clear that they're looking for a way to do this from a partisan perspective, unwilling to negotiate on behalf of the communities that need help the most. They're going to find a way to shove it into something in a very partisan.
Pursue executive order in a partisan fashion. You mean like executive order that you agreed with? That same one, the one you agreed with under Trump? That's quite interesting. Earlier today, I talked to Congresswoman Karen Bass, who was involved in the negotiations on this. She has a different take than what Senator Tim Scott just said. Listen to our interview. All right, Congresswoman Karen Bass of California, glad to have you here. I hate that we don't have good news. We had before, there was a lot of hope that we're going to have the George Floyd Act become reality. What happened?
Well, I think, Roland, it was a question of never being able to get to yes. The Senator Scott, really a lot of it hit him because he's going to deliver the 10 Republican votes. And Senator Booker, compromised. He went off and negotiated a deal with the Federal Order of Police because Senator Scott said, if you can show me you can get law enforcement support, I'll be open to it. And unfortunately, once it became public, the unions started going after each other, and that blew that up. And, I do have to qualify this by saying that the House of Representatives twice did our job. We passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act last year and this year. But I think Senator Booker just kind of threw in the towel yesterday because he felt that he could never get Senator Scott to say yes, even having compromised all the way down to the bone.
So, look, there are a lot of us, frankly, who said we had no faith there were going to be 10 Republicans. Now, you had Senator Tim Scott and Senator Graham telling others, they could bring 20, 25 along. And so the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding. But, Roland, I didn't have tons of faith. But when McConnell anointed Scott to negotiate the deal and said, whatever deal you negotiate, we will make sure it gets across the finish line. That was tons of reason for us to have hope.
No. I agree. No. Let me be clear. First of all, making the effort to negotiate to get a deal had to happen.
Right.
But my point was, I felt no matter what y'all did, unless y'all just gave everything up, the Republicans were going to always just try to find some other excuse, and the thing is also, Senator Tim Scott hasn't come out, explained himself, explained any of this. And the bottom line is what you just said. If McConnell said, what you bring to us, we're going to put forth, nothing, it's like, again, lock it down, make it happen.
Right. But I will tell you how far it went. One, I told you that Senator Booker negotiated a deal with the police that they agreed to. If that didn't work, we said, well, what about the Trump executive order? President Trump put that forward. It's still in effect. And when President Trump put it forward, we didn't like it because it was at the height of the protests last year. But frankly, given that momentum is gone and is actually reversed and in the opposite direction, putting Trump's executive order into law this year looks different than it did last year. But Senator Scott was not able to agree to that. Now, that was President Trump's executive order with all branches of law enforcement supporting it. And so if you can't even agree to what is already in existence, then at that point you have to say that this is over, which is what Senator Booker did.
So here's the dilemma that that Democrats are in. Democrats control the House. The House, as you said, passed it twice. The Senate did not pass it, but Democrats have but it's a 50-50 tie in the United States Senate. Democrats have the White House. I'm already hearing from people who have said no George Floyd Justice Act. We've seen what's happened with the Haitian and Texas border. No For the People Act. I'm hearing people say, I'm not going to be excited and interested in going out there and voting next year. This is going to have serious ramifications for Democrats to keep control of the House and the Senate in 2022. So, what are you telling the White House? What are you saying to, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer that, look, folks, understand, Black folks are not just going to sit here and look kindly on nothing actually getting passed?
You couldn't be more right. I mean, this is a devastating loss. The most important thing to me is the fact that an average day, 3 people die at the hands of police. So if you think about George Floyd's murder to now, you're talking over a year, there's probably been around 1,000 deaths involving officers. Now, I'm not saying all of them were like George Floyd. Some of them might have been appropriate in the sense that people might have been in the middle of a violent exchange. But without any transparency, without any accountability, with 18,000 police departments policing in 18,000 different ways, it's really something that we were not able to bring about this change or voting rights or any of the other initiatives. We have to spend the time and help people understand that the problem in the Senate, as you well know, is that having majority is not enough. You have to have supermajority. But I believe at some point you have to look at that and say, if we're in control of the rules, then maybe we need to change the rules.
What's next? Now we're hearing, President out of the White House, President Biden may take action utilizing executive orders.
We asked that. We called on the administration to use its power to the fullest. I will tell you that the administration, in particular, Susan Rice, the chair, the head of the Domestic Policy Council, Cedric Richmond, were helpful every single step of the way. They provided advice, they provided support, and frankly, they had wanted to move much, much sooner, and we asked them to wait. So now that we have officially declared the negotiations over, we are calling on the administration to use every ounce of their power to move the needle forward. We might not have been able to pass legislation, but the administration can act. The administration has already acted by issuing instructions to the Department of Justice, or the Department of Justice rather, issued instructions around chokeholds, around no-knock. You know that the investigations are going on. All of the stuff that Trump shut down is now back in effect, and the administration is acting aggressively. I hate to put all of the emphasis there, but until we can pass meaningful legislation, we have to use the power that we have, and that's the power of the administration. Now, when it comes to people voting next year, we need to talk about that. And we need to say that what we were able to get done, or what the administration was able to get done, in the absence of our ability to act.
Well, it's unfortunate that we sit here. There was tremendous pressure. There were people out there in the streets. But this is also what I've also said is that the activism, that pressure, has to continue. And frankly, I think Senator Tim Scott owes America an explanation as to what happened.
Well, I would agree. I do think, though, that the lesson to be learned from this is that it's most important to push legislation at the height of the momentum. And if we had been able to pass legislation in the Senate last year, when there were hundreds of thousands of people in every single state and countries around the world, it would have been a lot better. Again, the House did our job twice. It was the Senate where things died.
And that is all too often so issues that folks care about. Unfortunately, the public only sees who's in charge and says you failed, as opposed to those nuances. And so, Councilwoman Karen Bass, I do want to just give you an opportunity just to share your thoughts on what's happening on the board. There's lots of pressure being turned on President Biden, his Haitian resigns, blasting the American towards Haiti. Just on that.
I mean, I think it was absolutely atrocious. I mean, I looked at those, the footage of the officers on horseback whipping the migrants, and I hope that an investigation quickly, that they are prosecuted if need be. And I do think that if those people are seeking asylum, then we need to treat them accordingly. So I worry about the mass deportation of people to a country that they haven't been in for years. Remember, folks did not get to Mexico, did not get to the border in a Haiti. They came to South America. Some of them had been in South America for in Haiti, where there's
Absolutely. Well, we keep continue the pressure. I've been asking for the administration every single day to have somebody come on my show to explain what's going on. I still need to explain to me why they get away with detentions compared to Cubans, why we're accepting refugees, but we're turning our back on Haiti. And no one's in the administration seems to want to give an answer. And we're going to keep question and trying to get somebody to answer. I got that. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.
Oh, man. It is unfortunate that we're not going to see the George Floyd justice passed. And Senator Tim Scott, you owe the nation what you said. Folks caught up with you in the hall to say Democrats did not accept compromise. Okay, do that. Or do you make Senator Tim Scott not able to some votes according to Congresswoman Karen Bass? Senator Cory Booker negotiated with the Fraternal Order Police. Democrats compromised on a whole lot of different areas. Scott couldn't deliver.
No, he couldn't. You know what's so funny? I love that energy, man. I love how you on that laugh. That laugh. You know what? I want to congratulate Eugene Scott. Tim Scott things. I want to congratulate Tim and accomplished Scott, who entered that quote unquote in bad faith with one objective: to stop anything. To stop. That's why that Gould, unreconstructed Gould, McConnell sent his servant, his good and faithful servant, into that conversation. I want to congratulate Senator Cory Booker, who finally the floor of his self-respect and said no. I've given everything. I want to congratulate the people who leaked the evisceration of by Fraternal Order Police after making a quote-unquote secret deal. I want to congratulate the people who leaked it, then walked from it, as those of the Sheriff's Association and other groups, Senator Tim and young Lindsey Graham. And I want to congratulate every nationalist contingent who sent Tim with one objective and one objective only: to defend the rollers. Don't let anything happen. And when I heard finally, which is why when she left, a woman who managed the whole California legislature, the short to be vice president of the state's candidate because of her negotiating things, Congresswoman said that they couldn't even get agreed to pass. That's all you need to know. They couldn't even pass a resolution in the United States Senate to say George Floyd was murdered. And guess who voted against that resolution? Mission accomplished, Scott. Young, good job, Tim. Scott thing. Proud of you, young boy.
Raji?
Yeah, I just believe we're still at this place. I think this is the reason why so many of our people just have lost hope and faith in the government of the United States. Look at what this bill encompasses, what this act actually says. And I'm just going to read a quick excerpt of it. The bill enhances existing enforcement mechanisms to remedy violations of law enforcement. Among other things, it does the following: lowers the criminal intent standard from will to knowing or right to convict a law enforcement officer for misconduct in a federal prosecution. Limits qualified immunity defense to liability in a private civil against law enforcement officer, and grants administrative subpoena power to the Department of Justice in pattern practice and investigation. It also establishes a framework to prevent and remedy racial profiling by law enforcement at the federal, state, and local level. It also limits the unnecessary use of restricts the use of not warrant chokeholds and holds, and creates a national registry, the National Police Misconduct Registry, our data on complaints of police conduct. I mean, when you look at this act is nothing more providing some level of justice to the victims of police brutality in the country. And this country is not to make it happen. You talked about it, Dr. Tim Scott and all, core group. The fact is, this is why America's in the place that it's in, because it does not even to recognize truth. It does not recognize justice. It's so wrapped up in the power and partnership. It can't on simple things. It doesn't even have a national registry of police misconduct. What's wrong with that? Qualified immunity. That's the problem. Police should not be civilly liable when they kill somebody. Why not? Why not sue a doctor? Can't you? Can't you? This is absolutely and for us to be in this place in 2021 after all people say, oh, it is the reckoning of a man. No, it's not. A reckoning. Same damn thing. Nothing. I can't.
Yeah, I think example of how Senate majority, Senate majority leader Chuck Schumer, we're of the Senate caucus. They have the majority. There's no reform whatsoever. Completely got rid of the mission of the buster of the filibuster as a buster 3. But I continue to wave the flag, and it's not going to be enough to go to the voters, to the young voters, and going to some voters in 2022 and say, let's pass a bill the Senate didn't mention it, and that's the reality. People don't like political realities. They don't like practicalities and Senate process. So this is unfortunate development. So very typical of Republicans out there getting together to run around. What happened with Obamacare, where Obama gave Obama made a lot of compromise to a Republican. Democrats, how much more to endure to figure out that you don't negotiate with terrorists? They're going to figure out that Chuck Schumer step the hell and get some votes. He was in United against Trump. Now it's time to actually govern, lead, and legislate. You don't want to fall. Well, we're going to obstruct the Trump administration and where votes, and they're going to say, whatever they want to pass. Actually pass Schumer. Nobody mentioned Chuck. We can blame on negotiate. Where Chuck Schumer? And it doesn't pass. They go back to VP Harris. Where is Chuck Schumer? Your tweet today is a good day to, and you ain't shit in the Senate. I want to say, Chuck Schumer, step it the hell up. If you gotta do what you gotta do. Bring your car. That's what a leader. That's what Nancy does. She has large family of entities where they want to pass. And every time comes through this, they're not going to support this. And very narrow majority gets the shit. So whatever you have to do, Schumer, you're already leader for a long time. Get it. Not inaction. Not fall back. And it's the Senate's because the Senate is their position back in 2022. I've been for a while. It's going to require a Democratic Party if Chuck Schumer figure out to get some shit with votes. That's Vice President with the tiebreaker.
Reese has to get some shit done. Man, Oklahoma was facing a recommendation from the State Board of Parole. Jones was death slaying Paul. Last parole board recommended Jones to be imprisonment. Jones awaiting the Kevin the recommendation panel. 18th. All right, folks, got to go to back. Missing attention on a white body was found in Wyoming. Massive coverage. All the media outlets call that female syndrome. The media that now they're facing the people who are in all with father of a brother who's been missing, who is trying to is yet to go. Also, the organization whose focus is on African Americans who come up missing. That is next on Roland Martin Live Network.
Just about folk and justice.
In this, got to around being intentional and conflict.
You always agree.
Yeah.
We agree on peace.
Yeah.
Conflict is not destruction.
What's going to happen?
Them to be when we control our enemies, we win. This is the most important show on any racial background. Y'all put 3, 4, 10, 15, 20, $30 on this and going. We're since this crisis is full bloom. Anybody watch this, tell your friends, go back the last weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at today. You sitting senators, star, whatever you have, you can Roland Martin Filtered to because the information literally say.
Watch Roland Filtered daily at 6 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope. Go to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital by going to filter.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing 50 each year. You possible with martinunfiltered.com.
Vivian.
Everybody, Fred Hammond, Roland, my man, culture.
Folks, all the platforms we have used them to on who have missing. Mainstream media always those supposed to mother of Bonnie show tonight. There's been August 4th. Is it State University? Today, a body found in DNA that it was in Jelani. The county medical examiner confirmed identity through forensic identification. Indeed, the remains unknown and is pending further investigation. Again, Day was reported missing on August 25th in Bloomington, Illinois. Folks, thousands of people in America last year. There were 518 people reported missing in America. Percent of people, we make a calculation, and that's people of color. So not that 100% is, but the reality is this in issue 2022 persons of color were missing 100,467 were under the age of 18. Yet if you are black, you come up missing, you can forget about it, especially women. Oh my God, you have all coverage. Black and missing information. There are main reasons disparity in coverage. Minority children initially classified as runaways, so there's no Amber Alert. For missing minority, black and other minority adults, it is believed they have some association with criminal involvement, gangs, and drugs. Lastly, America is simply desensitized. They think missing blacks and other minorities live in impoverished conditions and crime is just a regular part of their lives. These reasons force families to do everything to get the word out their missing sons and daughters. Daniel Robinson, his not been seen 23rd. Geologist, the geologist giving a work site in his rent. His father, David, the co-foundation, join us right now, both of you. It is difficult for the story. One has been found. A case for Day. His mother, obviously shocked at the news today, processing that death, and part of the problem when don't get it out early on and lead these type of.
Absolutely, it seems like there's just of urgency when it comes to our cases. So my heart goes out to Jelani Day's family, and I'm Daniel's. We've been highlighting the cases. You know, we can write along Natalie Holland, Chandra, Casey, and ACP, Elizabeth Smart. Can anyone missing black, just one, who's missing in this? and receiving media.
And one led to many series, docu-series and all.
Absolutely. So sad, unfortunate. We're not dishonoring these. We're trying to even the playing field. Such as Jefferson, Reed, Kia Jacobs. Those families deserve answers. The same amount of resource that was applied to this case. We understand that not going to bubble up to the mainstream media, but more. Particular of everyone that it great chances of a reunion. These families, I know Mr. and he's hurt right
now. Mr. I'll go to you now. Give us of your son. Was he working with backstory with your son working? Was colleagues leave alone? What happened?
Well, my son, a company, Nature's New World. Daniel Field company is he get a site. He may visit to us in a day. He meet with a representative from a company. Just him out there at the site. Went missing. He met a company cover. Those out there on site and collected do his other gentleman his job site well get to do the work from what the host one first of all, but according to that, son decided to early because of rain listen to he never been seen again.
You said what city? Where was this?
It's in Buckeye, Arizona. It's outside. It was on the side of Phoenix.
He when did he notify you one he was missing?
It's roughly. I live in Columbia, South Carolina. She's my son, and she allowed me. This had to be I'm here in Phoenix, and back in South Carolina, she called me there and told me that the job workers from the job I was searching for.
So someone looked at him. Okay, so what then do? When were police notified? What car found? Was items found? Tracking of his phone? Anything?
No. In fact, Mr. Palmer, in Tempe, they told me I needed to talk to the department. It's the last place they had me. I can put a missing person. Then, the job had the name that he left the job site.
Wait. You're working for?
Yes, on duty. That's correct.
The company did not initiate some type of search. What did the company do? Just missing? Let me hear from him. Was it?
Any black work for this?
I'm the only one. You don't find many GIs out there. He's some I know when it comes to that. Something he want to do. When he got out of high school, he landed here, and I that fact.
So, all right. So he comes in the first 70 hours. First of all, you had 12 hours. Was search any area? Did anyone retrace of what have been found?
No, not at all. Afterwards, I guess
it's days.
Correct.
And who did that search?
That was on the call, and I don't know what she said to them for the first search, and they just sent a helicopter out. That by the time they did that, I was almost to Phoenix because the first when they denied the search, I was already in my car on the find out was the point.
So is done. How long do they done?
Saying the day when they did that search, that's as far as I think is rough. From that point, there was say almost a month later, like three weeks later, the silver evidence, because I requested that the net search after the vehicle. That was on June 15th, almost a month later when my son was missing. Rancher found my son's vehicle in the ravine out there, 2.5 miles away from where he was missing.
So your son's vehicle was discovered. How long he came up?
It was on the 19th of July. My son went June the 20th, and almost a month later on 19th to my vehicle.
Your son, June 23rd, vehicle was found in a ravine July 29th. Effects found in there. Anything?
Well, actually, it was July
19th.
Right. And the thing was, when they found the vehicle Buckeye also caught to son's vehicle, clothing, everything from his underwear, his socks, everything he's wearing, his boots, everything clothes in about the vehicle. His safety that he was wearing that day when he was missing was another foot away, and the vehicle was on the side. This was with his clothing out there, with wallet inside the vehicle, on the computer, things like that.
Because that all sounds absolutely strange, but it all goes to show what happens when you know had there been a real search hours. But actually, before I answer that, Derek, Daniel, how far miles or feet? How far was it where was found in the ravine from where he was left? He was asked with his coworker. What was the distance?
2.5 miles, and they did searches out, extensive searches, they say.
Miles? So, see, this is the thing that gets me. Really able to access the by vehicle. Okay, clearly he was able to access by vehicle. So I'm sitting here, search, trace as was.
Absolutely. And my question is, did the police department, interview any of his colleagues? Did they bring them in for questioning? Bring in a desk, do a grid search of the area? Did they ask federal resources to help? Did they bring out drones? Did they bring out the cadaver dog? Nothing. They spent 2 hours. But other cases of people that don't look like us, they're spending from sun up to sundown.
Is that what angers you, Dan, if your son was a missing, that this case would have been absolutely treated completely?
Yeah, and because I'm when I was here, I'll get her. So the one is, as soon as I guys day one wasn't really serious, I found them. I saw them out, and been doing it straight out there for my son.
You also trying to hire a investigator. What are you doing? Fund me. What are you doing to help with that? Ask for.
I've been, like I said, from 26. From that time, I have a home in South Carolina, but while I'm out here for a living, to be out here to get to be out here and investigate, I had to. So, of course, the GoFundMe was there, created later to me, because I take care here and pay the expenses here. So after the searches of 7 weeks of searches, I'm desperate. I can't get the Buckeye Police to move on really doing a search on my son. I'm running out of resources to help me for a point, and the Gabby thing, what I've been working for 3 months came up. My son's serious, and so to help with me, so now I can stay a lot longer. Continue open the searches again.
Well, and Mr. Rob, we're here to help you as well. Our resources we're sharing, our media contacts, we will also make a contribution to you. This is devastating, and on behalf of Black and Missing, our hearts out to you. There's no one have to deal with this. Missing Black issue. It's an American issue. We know that this is devastating. Not if Daniel is, if he's hungry, if he's got to walk, and that's how all these families feel. Why we have to make priority. All who are missing deserve that equality.
That's right.
We shouldn't have to fight for everything.
Mr. Robert, get us that information. So share with 3 million followers, and we as well.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you,
sir. I appreciate it. You answers that you absolutely deserve when it comes to your son, Derek. We also appreciate your work as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Panel, Greg, Reese, Faraj. Again, what's out is to see the media right about parity going the same editor, the same white news director, the one who's a stories is the one who determines the white woman gets anybody.
I mean, and what's crazy here is, it seems like in order for Black stories to get attention, they have to be, more acceptable, more upstanding Black citizens about a runaway, person being covered. But in the case of Robinson and out to his father, brave for taking it upon and doing these activities and really fighting to bring his son back home. And I hope and pray that he does return home and they find him well. But he's religious. He's a student. And so he fits the profile in theory of the kind of Black person that would normally, if this person were white, would have received this kind of national attention. So it's awful how these kinds of things only light when there's that contrast being made. I think that Black people are at all suggesting white people missing who this discussion we're having about missing was tragic. We just want the amount of attention for
look,
people.
Look, okay. Look, this is the lead story. Warrant for Petito's fiance to her death. If I go, let's see right here. If I go to NewYorkPost.com, and if I go here, issue for Brian Laundrie over Gabby Petito's death. I mean, when you start, bottom line is when you see these kind of stories we see massive media attention. I'm talking about mainstream media throwing researchers, multiple reporters, multiple staff on one missing white woman and repeatedly ignoring all the rest of these stories as if we don't exist. You're on mute. Frog on mute. What's going on? Okay, y'all, Greg Carr.
Yeah, Roland, just quickly. The Buckeye, Arizona Police Department put on a site with information to help solve this case, and some families are Buckeye Police Department non-emergency number. And you all can look at that non-emergency number. I won't presume that you even broadcast the number, Roland. In addition to the GoFundMe, we understand that Buckeye, Arizona, which is in Maricopa County, I heard Maricopa County over the last couple of years. At any rate, we should destroy the phone line capacity to take calls. If you can't give any, dial the number, your fingers fall off. When they do, use your elbow. What the hell are they doing? We just heard a man whose temper is breaking in his calmness. Mm-hmm. He left South Carolina. He left to find, he said, I went to find my son because they're not looking for him. You're right. Of course. No human being should be missing. But as the PD used to say, when they would get a call of black folk, involving black folk in Los Angeles, and the Jamaican philosopher Sylvia Winter took this phrase that the LAPD and applied it to the study of black folk in this country. She said, they all, and they realized black people, they would repeat, so no humans involved. This would not stand, woman or white man, that matter. So let's balance of Arizona's police department in Maricopa County, because since you don't think there are any humans involved, we're going to treat us. I hope that you find it, brother. When you asked that question, brother, and he narrated how they found all of his son's clothes, his underwear, his socks, in his clothes, strewn out from that car, and 2.5 mile distance between where his last work had. Not only becomes unacceptable in this, these people have to deal with the fact that we will make this place ungovernable. To make it into someplace different. I'm going to for this.
Faraji.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it's when I look at a media scan of how, this Gabby to the cases of black children and black people, it's always like it says, you know what, this hypocritical stance that we recognize and put enough emphasis on black and brown men. We recognize that. And then you have these kind of bubble conversations of the importance of it. The data comes out of people of color. Others, but it's so hypocritical. Really, really hypocritical. I think also that we look at it, is it just us? I mean, just traditional white media, or is it us how we feel about our own go missing? I mean, it's each day in America, a child finds themselves in this country, right among black people. We don't ask the right questions. We just kind of shove in, oh, okay, they're gone for a while, and then bodies end up somewhere. This happens right here in Baltimore. This happens right. And so, it's like we have to, I mean, obviously, we can feel for the Day family. We can feel for the Robinson's family. Right. We feel that pain. But we need to put that emphasis way. We can't just put it all on the media. We take on that mantle ourselves.
Absolutely. So and somebody tweet, they said, my local nations have spent so many resources. They also report to Florida, Washington.
Wow.
Yeah, CNN has had multiple locations for the That's how it happened. Hey, folks, earlier we told you about at Friendship Church in Dallas gathering. Let's go right now to Dallas, Texas. Linda Soares, founders of Until Freedom. Linda, give us a sense of how you have been going. Earlier, dropping off. Are y'all overwhelmed with supplies?
Dallas showed up. We are, as you can see, we have a steady people bringing in. To make some purchases here in the Dallas area. Angela here, co-founder of Until Freedom team, and the wonderful people, Friendship West Baptist Church, spreading all the wonderful volunteers that are out here, standing in solidarity with our Haitian sisters and brothers at the border.
And so, y'all are traveling 6 hours to Del Rio, Texas, and so have brought. You were, is it one truck, 2 trucks, 3 trucks?
Sorry, how many trucks?
Yeah, how many trucks?
Yeah, so there are multiple trucks, but some are going to be going to different receiving stations. As you know, people are being released to Del Rio, and then they're being moved to places like San Antonio and Houston, which are cities that have Haitian courts that are being sent around the country. So Del Rio is just a small area. So this particular U-Haul truck that's right here is the one that is going to be going to Del Rio, that has baby diapers, baby wipes, sanitary for women, hand sanitizer, a baby formula, just a lot of important necessities that people need just to feel a little dignified and have some basic trip that they have to make either to San Antonio or to Houston or other parts of Texas.
And look, the reality is a lot of folks are going to Del Rio for the photo op. Y'all wanted to make sure that that y'all help the people. You gotten with Trey, the rapper out of Houston, his organization as well, and so y'all have really put together a strong coalition to provide some help to the folks there, these migrants.
Absolutely, and we thank you, Roland, for always sharing and giving us this platform. This is about helping Haitian migrants at the border. It's also a way to shame the United States government to treat the Haitian migrants at the border. It is their responsibility to bring supplies, to dignify these people, to support these people, literally in desperation, which is why they're at the border. And so we are demanding that President Biden and 42 stop the deport of these migrants and figure out how to process them and give them the opportunity to access a safer and better life here in the United States of America.
And so you talk about going to these multiple cities. Are you also organizing people in those cities to also give as well? And people they want to know, okay, I'm going to see where to go. If there's somebody out there who's watching and listening and they want to send money opposed to supplies, where should they send it to?
So yes, so as you can see, the majority of people who are here with us today are from the Dallas area. They are volunteers. They have come out in solidarity to support this effort. We are asking people to give resources to the Haitian Alliance. They are an organization that is at the front lines of supporting Haitian migrants across the border, and they have been doing this work for weeks now, not just because of the recent imagery that we saw. Give the Haitian Alliance. You can also support Until Freedom, untilfreedom.com, and just really add our platform, our resources to this effort.
All right then. I appreciate it. Y'all do great work. I was communicating with you and Tamika last night what y'all were doing. I said, look, we got to get y'all to show what's going on. For whoever has the camera, just get our folks just a shot of there, all the stuff that y'all can see right there, what you see supplies, what they're loading in there. And so a big shout out to all the Until Freedom and all the folks at my church, Friends Church. Thanks a lot. Y'all take care. Safe travels to Del Rio, San Antonio, and Houston.
Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, safe travels.
I want to get in there. I want to get in there.
All right, y'all. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thanks. Thing that is, again, others who are traveling down photo ops. They ain't bringing nothing. They ain't helping. It is all about attention. That's how you mobilize and organize. I'm all talking about on how you put and how you mobilize and organize. Is one thing to comment and post on Facebook and TikTok, but freedom is doing by actually work.
Absolutely. And, there are a lot of times they take a lot of attack personally in the process of doing this work. I think it's so you show the image and the video of what is actually being done, because particularly I hate to even use the word woke because it's completely and ruined it. There is a reluctance to have to spend money because there's all these corruption and these people this together, but showing an organization that you can see tangibly what they're doing and where they're going with it is helpful, because people need to know that there are people on the ground doing. Everybody can't travel down to Del Rio. It's probably not even safe for a lot of people going down. We need people that are in this kind of to take kind of direct action. Very well, all can contribute, whether it's it going down there and volunteering and actually donating goods. So, I encourage you to do is tune out the noise about this person and that person, you know, who's doing X, Y, and Z, and the pudding. It's all about the action. You can see the action should be focused on and how you can be a part of the solution instead of the noise machine.
Raji?
Yeah, I'm in the complete see, and to also do it, and I'm us to make sure put out residency activation. I see a lot of people talking about, you know, Cash App and or me, or you can donate, Brother Roland. You know, I want to get your take on this. What is the way people give money or to supply, and considering Del Rio is being secured by federal and state authorities, what's the likelihood that those supplies will get to our people?
Well, and when Linda said they understand that people are not in Del Rio and disseminate the supplies in different places. I would say to out there, frankly, if you're not in Dallas or Houston or Antonio, send money. Here's the deal. If you're going to go to the store, supplies, you're going to be spending money. And so, say the name of the organization, control room, that name of the organization she mentioned. She also Haitian Bridge. Y'all get a graphic together and put it on the lower third. Type what the website is. Also go to the Freedom website. That's what I would just simply that it would be resources. That's what I would. This, you know, I talk about this all the time. On media matters. The reality is MSNBC, Fox, and CNN. They're not going to do that. They're caught up in other stuff. This is why, as your brother in that promo we're running, our eyes need to follow or go where we are. Happen because when we're able to build capacity, able to have 2,176 watching on YouTube, or right now I think it's 1,400 watching on the Black Star Network app, or Facebook has actually been suppressing our live notifications. Numbers are like 200 and 300 on Facebook. The reality is, when we can build 2 and 3 and 4 and 500,000, that's building capacity. Stories like this, why it matters. Greg, I think you're on mute.
I ain't as I said, you're right, Roland. Bring your eyeballs home. We all run into people all the time who watch. They may not watch in real time. They go back and watch later. But, you know, not only expect white and white stream media to do that, because this is our mainstream, we shouldn't rely on them. As we saw with the case of the verge of losing his job principal there in Texas, all of a sudden he was discovered by white stream media at Black Country, but that's because he was here first and then came back. And what we just saw, brother, it was so incredibly instructive to see our sister Linda Sarsour, to see those women loading that. And then when you get, you know, have your camera pan over to see, and they all paused. And the sister said, I want to get in that picture. Why? Because this is home. I mean, today would have been the 95th birthday of John Coltrane. You know, what we saw was, to borrow his recording, the title, Love Supreme. Yesterday was Jeremiah Wright's 80th birthday. You know, happy birthday, brother. And of course, his spiritual son. When the tried to crucify Jeremiah Wright, when he what America's about, God like America, he wasn't talking about people. He was talking about any system that was a crisis. So looking at that, brother, you know, I think about the great Paul Robeson, who made a recording before they took his passport, he and his wife, before they accused him of being in the state, before they tried to Paul Robeson, before Paul Robeson spent the rest of his life at his sister's house. He was one of the recording artists, most recording artists in the film star and all that. He had good news that from the house I live in, he starts with, what is America to me? A name, a map of a certain word. See, what is America to me? Well, it's what it is. He said it's the house I live in. White and black. Church, the school, the clubhouse, the million lights I see, but a actually the people. So when I say there's no we, there's the people, and it starts locally. If y'all want to do something and you think there's an America beyond who do things like we just saw, if you have any money, pick up the phone again. The White House, Biden's administration, appealing the decision that's not letting people in, blaming COVID. Call the Biden administration at the places that Sister Sewer just let us understand. If they're going to let them in the country, they're going to fly to the places and give them to appear. You need to on the Senate, ban the Congress, ban the Biden administration. Ask them, what is your policy toward Haitians? What is your policy toward people? People stay here. And I don't know where is in this or my sister Vanita is, but we need to find the Department of Justice. Their interface is with this Biden administration policy of continuing the Trump policy. Money, get in the political. That's my black sir.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, folks. We're not done. First of all, with the panel, we're conversation where I was talking about holding companies accountable of Florida. All they promised $30 to $50 million. Talking about how they ain't spending the money. Calling folks. The conversation was interesting. Like on Clubhouse, well, actually, conversation on Clubhouse to tell people we do on fan base. Black-owned app launched Hayes, who part of the crowd fund, which raised $3.5 through crowdfunding, further development. I said we can't talk about Black economic empowerment if we willingly have conversations on Clubhouse. Don't want to go. So go to my computer. So at 9 p.m. 48 minutes, I'm going to have part 2 of our conversation on fan base. I'm going to download the fan base app. We're going to have a conversation over there, blow it out, and I'm going to walk y'all through. I'm going to walk y'all through these advertising agencies, and I'm going to why I call out brands specifically. Y'all need to understand what's going on with that fan base app. Trust me, you want to check it out. Of course, we yesterday talked about the death of and tremendous man, amazing story. The Parwa he did Cooley High. I'm double checking because he recorded live. Actually, he sent me a video. I'm not sure if the video has come here that way. So I'm going to send him and try to get it. But what I'm going to do is earlier I had a conversation with the journalist, author. He's done business, and that is Nelson George. And he had amazing things to say, y'all, about Melvin Van Peebles, some jewels. Blew me away, and I want y'all to actually hear that. Here's my conversation with Nelson. Nelson George, glad to have you on Martin Unfiltered, brother.
Good to be here. Sad talking about what we're going to talk about, though.
Melvin lived an extraordinary life. Passed away at the age of 9, and I came across a video to this unbelievable conversation. Gordon Parks, Melvin Van Peebles, and Ossie Davis, and you participated in.
Well, those brothers, they're godfathers of contemporary American film. Gordon made Learning in Hollywood his first adaptation of books. Did Watermelon Man, very close behind him. And right there in the ballpark with Ossie Davis. Several of them, and so these 3 guys are sort of benchmarks if you look at all the way up to, Barry Jenkins and A. DuVernay and so forth. These guys through civil rights was Melvin probably kind of classed it because Melvin, here's the story. Melvin did a film first called Servants. Very new. He was able to raise money in France. He wasn't able to in America in 1966 or 67. He was seen by Hollywood. He came made a Watermelon was Godfrey Cambridge. But he realized the statement he wanted to make could not be made in Hollywood. He made a movie, Sweetback's Badass, about a male hustler who sees a man shoot goes on the run. And that's a revolutionary film in that the Black character was not a Sidney Poitier character. He was from the underclass. He shot police. He didn't just, yell at them. And he's in Mexico at the end of the film. The film that Panthers, the film that black people embrace, and it set a new template for a action hero that then leads a whole blaxploitation. So that one film alone, revolutionary.
Now here's what's interesting, because the New York Post, and how critical of and blasting them, they headline included in it, but he was a critic of that. Yeah, and it's interesting that they link as if he was a exploitation director. No, he wasn't.
No. What happened is that his film situates a black hero attacking the establishment in an anti-establishment. The blaxploitation movies were usually adaptation, detective novels, or they were very conventional, aggressive, as Sweetback was. So they took elements of success because they knew that the black audience was craving this. And but I also want to point out to you that Floyd wasn't just a movie maker. Sweetback comes out in 1971. In 1972, he takes a lot of the money he made from Sweetback, has not one, but two plays on Broadway. He's supposed to die a natural death, and one play is cheap. Unprecedented. He had two plays on Broadway at the same time. Plays that he wrote, directed, and raised the money for. He also helped train his marketing in terms of Broadway because he went out and was able to get black church groups to come out and plays, targeted them at a time when that wasn't done on Broadway. So part of that I should mention when I talk about these two plays is that one of them is a musical. That all during this time, Melvin was also a recording artist. He made a number of recordings throughout his career, many of which ended up into soundtracks to different movies and plays. So the brother was a film director, right? He was a music composer, and he was a books, even made movies. One of his first books was done back in the late 60s, maybe early 60s. He was a cable car conductor. He wrote a book about being a conductor. So this was a man who lived an extraordinarily diverse creative. So, the big bang, but there are so I was watching him perform a nightclub 10 years ago. He was on the road doing club dates where he sang, had a band behind, and was incredibly, he lived super vital creative.
And that would there, and then of course, my goodness, he decides, you know what the hell, I'm gonna be trade stocks on Wall. I mean, here one who said, you know what, the this or the boxes put me in boxes. I'm not gonna do it. You're not gonna put me in that box. I want to go. I'm gonna go here. If I want to do this, I can want this. I think there's a lesson in that for so many people who were told you do this with it as a one independent and show and the frustration I always had when I worked in mainstream media, but also when black media was just want you to, and I'm like, no, Alan, all of these gifts. That to me was so powerful to learn Melvin Van Peebles Agora box.
Yeah, I got well over the years, and it's always about your vision. First, when I was a college student, 1970, I went to interview for a magazine, and I walked in, brother, sitting in a wheel office, had no shoes on, no shirt, had trousers, suspenders, a hat, was smoking, and I was like, wow, unconventional. That's how he lived his life. Never tried to fit in. He made himself be, he totally was free spirit. I'll tell you something interesting that I found out yesterday. So at CAA, who was friends with, he says that when he joined 19 early, he negotiated his contract. I said, are you kidding? He said, no, Melvin knew money. Melvin knew money, and this is a white guy. Melvin, to negotiate his agent deal with his agency, the biggest creative art agency, talent agency, because he respected Melvin's business acumen. So I know first and how learned he was in so many different areas.
And, you know, whenever a lot of, oh my God, I'm sorry that. The reality is you see that in his children. You see that in Marlon's children. You see this whole idea of there are no boundaries. And all too often for African Americans, even especially our parents, for a lot of us, look, son, to daughter, look, get you a good job, get a, just, you know, don't waves. But then you older people start thinking back and, man, I wish I had done this and I wish I had done that. And they have these regrets. I think, you know, lays down in his home in Manhattan, passes away with no.
Oh, Melvin was running to New York all the time. I mean, he very. I'll tell you a story. I was shooting an independent about 10 years ago. You know, I had money, but can I get you to improv with me? Brought me up to the act. Was it little cameras? Get out with something to drink. I mean, if he thought you were trying to do conventional for you, you know, and I felt for me it was great to him because he was, and everybody who I don't know for any amount of time was in because he was conventional. He didn't fit any of the boxes of open mobility, but he always was moving to the apartment. He designed his apartment. A hot it was he had like the back that spewed kind of like smoke. He had paintings. He was a constant inventor, and I think he was living a career life. The idea is not to be boxed in, as you said, and it's also to be constantly doing stuff. You're never going to retire. The retirement is for people who have a 9 to 5. If you're out in this world trying to create for it, always be experimenting, always be learning, always be challenging yourself. In his proximity was to feel that energy, that history. I mean, the brother, at one point, he left Chicago. He was a car reporter in San Francisco. At one point, he lived as a street painter in Mexico City. Went to Paris. He lived in Amsterdam, and then went to Paris, where he sort of began his life as a writer and ultimately a filmmaker. He also afraid of his comfort zone. Being a black man traveling the globe throughout the 50s, he was able to open his vision and not be boxed in by the American boxes.
What you just said, that I think really stands out when you said, "You look, man, have any money for? Can you do this?" He's like that. If there's one thing, Nelson, that sort of drives me crazy, and it really does, and I said this a couple of weeks ago on Twitter. It doesn't actually cost me anything to help somebody out and retweet something. It doesn't. If somebody hits me, "Hey, Roland, can you do me a solid and do a mention on?" Okay. Now, obviously, that's relationship.
Sure.
Because you also know that person and who they are and what they do. But this is someone who, like you said, I see somebody who's trying to do, man, I'm gonna go ahead and help you. That is in many ways uncommon. That's not common. It's common.
Right.
And for folks to do that, and I think a lot of people, when we talk to elders who've become ancestors, amazing how that is a consistent theme when we talk about many of those ancestors.
Oh, listen, I'm working on a documentary on Willie Mays. Willie Mays is 90 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And the key phrase in Willie's life is, he says, so-and-so I took care of myself. In other words, his mentored by older black ball players. And he became a mentor to a younger black ball player. Because he felt that was part of what you did. I feel an important part of Melvin's DNA, perhaps that whole generation of who the depression. These are depression babies. And so no one had anything when they came up. So if you had something, church, you let someone use your pants because there was no money and you had with each other. And a very strong sense of community. A lot of folks have been for years. Young now middle-aged filmmakers who were young filmmakers who gravitated around him and sat and who gave inspiration. His life was, how he lived was inspirational. I started cigars because of Melvin.
And some allergic to cigar pass on that one.
Okay.
But I'll all other stuff that he did. As you said, extraordinary life. Because I was literally in LA weeks ago where I interviewed Mario for this one-on-one series that I'm going to be launching on Black Work. And we were able to use stuff in the tribute night about his dad and life lessons and things like that. The reality is, in his life, he certainly passed on to his children, and that whole made is take care. Mario passed on to his children, and hopefully that's what that it doesn't matter to have all his knowledge and expertise sitting and sharing, unless it was in a sense of what freedom, what is like, what depression is like, what independence is like.
Yes, because Melvin was the ultimate independent. He made films, he made books, he wrote books, he made plays, he made and then figured out how to get him out. But he did his whole life, and he stayed the most idiosyncratic, interesting artist in American history.
Of course, I'm November. Are same area, and we got more work. All the stuff my brother did.
Absolutely, I said that. I'd say last night, like I was working. I ain't enough.
I was good, brother.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
That is, folks, on here on the network. Don't forget Black Star app on all platforms. Android phone, TV, Android, Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Xbox Smart TV. Also, be sure to bring the Funk Fan Club. You can, and our goal is to get 20 of our fans, giving about average of $50, $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day for anywhere. Cash App is $RM. Venmo is